NPM is getting big time hacked. Wasm is getting a huge new update. And can you run LLMs right in the browser? It's front end fire time. Let's get into it. We just got Cascadia this week, and I gotta say, there were so many people who came up to me and were like, I love your podcast. I was so excited about that. Yeah.
Excellent.
This is great. So let's talk about our podcast, and our podcast is Front End Fire, brought to you by our amazing co-host, Paige Niederinghaus.
Hey, everybody.
DJ Van Tol.
Hey, everybody.
And partly by myself, Jack Harrington. Hello. We have so much, stuff to talk about. Let's get into the news. Kind of worried about NPM getting hacked. Paige, what's going on?
This is a never-ending story, it seems.
Oof.
NPM had another breach or two this week. It's hard to keep up because it seems like as soon as one is declared, another one comes right on its heels. But yeah, so this has now been dubbed the Shai-Hulud supply chain attack. Because so for those of you who don't know, Shai-Hulud is in the Dune sci-fi novel, which is probably one of the most well-known sci-fi novels that's been written in the last 50 plus years. Seems like everybody who is into sci-fi has read it. And one of the things that I guess they took inspiration from, or the person who conducted this attack took inspiration from, is that their actual attack vector is a worm that propagates, and it basically gets downloaded. It scans for tokens and cloud credentials once it is downloaded via an NPM package that has been compromised. It validates those credentials. It creates unauthorized GitHub action workflows within repos, and then it publishes those credentials and other sensitive data to a webhook endpoint that's been hard-coded into the bundle.js, which is where the illegal script lives, or the malware script. So all that to say that there are these massive worms in Dune, in the planet, that are just everywhere. They are deadly.
Eating everything.
Yes. Yeah. And that is kind of, I guess, where they took inspiration from. So there even is a workflow file that they've identified, the people who've been following this, called the Shai-Hulud.yaml file. So there is a lot of Dune references. But yeah, so this week it was CrowdStrike NPM packages in particular that were targeted. There have been 526 packages so far that have been identified as compromised. And like I was saying, it was identified the first time September 14th at about 5:30 p.m. UTC. And so far, they've found 7 different versions of the worm that have been created and seeded to various different NPM packages over the course of the last 2 or 3 days. Following
I didn't
that,
know that. That's
yeah,
wow, 7. Jeez.
Yeah, and so they just kind of, in this article that we linked to, they talk about how it can self-propagate when it steals his credentials, inserts itself into other workflows and other repos, and then automatically modifies and republishes the packages as part of its chain. So the only thing to take heart from, I guess, if there is something, is that it cannot self-propagate without credentials. So if it ever ends up on a machine that just doesn't have access to anything, it can't find any secrets, that kind of ends its chain of attacks. But yeah, there's a post-install script that ensures automatic execution of the file, even when you're doing just a normal NPM install, which is how they think that there were kind of these bursts of new seeds and spreading of the packages. But yeah, it's really unfortunate that this is happening still.
How does this initially get in? Because I get the whole spreading workflow and it tries to replicate itself, but how does this start? Is this, again, just getting access it shouldn't to say, like the previous NPM attack we covered, they were basically getting authors of NPM packages to give up their credentials through a phishing attack, more or less, and that was the entry to. Is this something similar?
I think so. They said that the people who were doing the write-up think that because of the way that it happened and kind of the very extreme similarities to the first set of attacks, that it was the same kind of thing. Probably another phishing email, and somebody just clicked the wrong link, and that started it over again.
Yeah, and well, there's also it goes around and looks for creds, right? So it's looking for creds in your environment, straight up in an execution environment. It's looking for creds in like local files, and so if you npm log in, then because you're going to want to go and have it go from session to session to session. You don't want to relog in all the time, right? You get like an auth token, and then you can publish on that auth token. And so what they do is they figure out who your user is. They go figure out what packages you're connected to. I guess they probably download those packages and use that auth token to then republish those packages on your cred. So that's how it's
I see. So if you're running one of the bad versions just through on your own machine, it's going to go
straight
looking around
your own machine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and we all do it.
Well, so
there
this
is one thing.
different than
I do actually have creds on a couple of important repos. So I use two-factor auth. So they're not going to get like every time I want to npm publish, I have to go through a 2FA flow. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And if you're on some of these big packages, guys, seriously, please do that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But in terms of npm installs, we all do that just every day, adding new packages or updating existing ones without thinking about it.
Yeah, and the nature of these attacks is such that just speaking for my own projects, typically when I say a version that I want to include in my projects, usually I'll use the caret in my npm dependencies because I mean that's typically considered a best practice, or it has been, because if authors are supposed to only use the last digits for bug fixes, and presumably if there's a bug fix, you probably want it for your project, so usually you leave that off. But that does leave you open to these sort of attacks because, well, now do you trust random new versions coming in? I mean, previously we kind of leaned towards yes, but now, man.
No.
Yeah. So there is at least PNPM, which is what I use, has added two things that will help you here. First, they are disabling post-install scripts unless you actually enable them. And a lot of like the stuff I use, full on TANStack start, the stuff that I'm building daily, does not require post-install scripts. So there you go. It's like, no brainer, easy peasy. And then the second thing that they're doing is they're putting on a minimum release age. Okay.
Yes.
So like a lot of this stuff is getting resolved within hours, right? So people realize that they've been hacked, realize that there's this new thing because they get an email right away. When you publish something on npm, you personally get an email that says, hey, by the way, it was successful, whatever. And so you get this email, you're like, I didn't do that, right? And so you paying npm, and then they shut it off. So that happens in like a couple hours. So if you set that minimum release date to like a day, then you're only ever going to get packages that have been out for a full day. And then, so you're probably not going to get these hacked packages, at least on the current workflow. I mean, until npm gets overrun with all this sort of stuff. So those are two things that you can try out.
Yeah.
One you're going to get anyway. If you just update PNPM, you're going to get the no post-install scripts. And then, but the other one, you actually have to enable that one.
Yeah. And in addition to that, things that like we're doing at Blues to try and protect our own projects is we are locking down our package versions. So we're taking the caret out. We're switching and making sure that whatever versions of dependencies we have are good versions, and they will not be allowed to update until we physically go in and update them. Same for running GitHub action workflows, and npm CI will only install the versions exactly as they're written. We're monitoring logs for any unusual npm publishes that might happen. That's something that you can do as well if you think that you may have downloaded some of the malware. And then another thing that wasn't really familiar with until now is a thing called npm shrink wrap, which is a package lock.json, but it's for NPM packages specifically. So if you are publishing to NPM, Yarn, PNPM, you can include this NPM shrink wrap, and basically it just takes your node modules dependencies and it locks them down as well, but it's publishable to an NPM registry. So every dependency that you have to support your own NPM library, whatever it might be, is also specified in there. So that's something that we've also started doing for the few SDKs and JavaScript based projects that we publish to NPM. So yeah, I mean, it's really terrible that this is happening, but it's also a good wake up call, I guess, that we need to be better about security as an ecosystem. And, hopefully the things that PNPM is doing will inspire NPM and Yarn to follow suit and do something similar, if not exactly the same, so that we can try and get ahead of this a little bit more.
Honestly, I wonder what people are getting from this, but other than visibility.
Yeah. That's what I don't really understand is like, yeah, you hacked it, but what value does that provide to you?
Well, it's surprising to me that this has not happened before, because the fact that NPM has this post-install script mechanism seems just ripe for exploiting.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's interesting that that somebody hasn't done this before. So yes, some people like doing these hacks just to do them. I don't know. Mm-hmm. There's a variety. If you look at big hacks over largely successful hacks that have been perpetrated, there's a good mix of people that are trying to actually get financial gains, and then some that just are doing it just to see if they can do it, sort of thing, too. Some people
watch
just
the world burn.
Watch the world burn. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. We do so many things that are dodgy. Like a classic example is like when you see those, just install with this curl script, curl this, endpoint, and this obfuscated URL, and download. Yeah. And it's like, I do this. I'm sure. Everybody does this, and it's crazy, and it's gonna get us one of these days for sure.
Yeah. Or you see, use sudo because we need some certain sort of permissions with curl, like even worse.
Right? Yes.
Full access.
Like, it looks like a trusted website.
It asks for a sudo that it probably knows what it's doing. Yeah.
Well, and we got Claude Code now. I pretty much blindly trust when AI is running locally, and it's like, do I have permission to run this? Like, oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, whatever.
Go for it.
You go for it.
So somebody figures out how to give LLMs malicious advice, right? Like these are the sort of things that, who knows?
It's kind of like the malicious NPM packages that we talked about, I don't know, a couple months ago, where people are creating packages that are almost the same name as a very popular and highly used package, and then just seeding it out onto NPM and maybe making a website for it or something really quickly to kind of boost its credibility. And then, the LLMs do pull it in and suggest it or install it, and then you're hacked again.
Stay vigilant.
Exactly.
Yeah, check those NPM packages maybe when Claude suggests something new to you that you're not super familiar with.
I think the two short-term action items here for people that are listening to this is if you publish NPM packages, go look into the two-factor auth thing. I think that's probably the single biggest thing. And I'm putting myself actually on this list because I don't have big packages, but I have packages, and I actually don't know if I have that enabled. So I made a note to do that. And then the second would be check out your dependencies and really consider whether you need to be using some of these new PNPM features or locking down specific package versions. I think it's probably time to take those steps for your apps, for better or worse.
And just audit your workflows. Gosh, just go look in the Actions tab and see if there's anything weird that's run in a script that you don't recognize.
But I'm lazy, and when it comes to the 2FA thing, I was always like, oh man, I'm gonna have to have this on my phone.
Such a pain.
Such a pain. Gotta have the authenticator, blah 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 thing, and I started using 1Password like really seriously, and 1Password has OTP, these authentication token support built in. So literally, when it comes to this 2FA thing, NPM pops up. If 1Password is, like enabled,
Signed
which,
in.
you signed in, which usually just means like putting your finger on the thing. It automatically fills in that 2FA token. I don't even look at it, and it gets done. But it's secure, right? And so I think that's the thing. Like, you got to find a way to like do 2FA, but do it in a way where you're not like, oh, I don't want to do this because this sucks kind of thing, right? You actually want to do it. And so, use one of these tools. I think like 1Password has that support. I'm sure that like, the other BitLocker or whatever, I'm sure that it has it too. They
LastPass does.
Oh, okay, there you go, LastPass.
Bitwarden.
Bitwarden, right? So do that. I mean, and have real passwords, right? I mean, this should be a wake up call for people to actually like kind of, it's going to take an hour or two, but you're definitely gonna feel better, right, about this.
Yeah. Even if you're not using the two-factor authentication features on something like 1Password or LastPass or something, just use the password generator.
Yeah.
Everything will be completely just junk, garbage, random letters and numbers and characters, but they'll all be different and they're all unique. And then you don't have to worry if one gets compromised that 5 other websites that you use the exact same sign-in on are also compromised because of it.
Yeah.
Well, then make sure to write down those passwords in your password book. That's how you make sure then.
Those sticky notes. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I love it when 1Password actually comes up with passwords that are so mangled that the site is like, no, that's too mangled. It's like,
yeah.
What?
Too many special characters.
What? Anyway, okay. Well, let's switch gears and talk about Wasm.
Yeah.
So there's an update to Wasm. So for people that aren't aware, Wasm is a sort of an abbreviation for WebAssembly. It is a binary instruction format for the web. And really, just in plain terms, it's what allows you to run code on the web that isn't written in JavaScript, that's written in something else. It's usually C, C++. It could be something like Rust, and they're trying to add support for other languages to do this sort of thing as well. Now, the spec for this is one that's maintained by the W3C. So the WebAssembly group has its own working group, and periodically they announce releases. And releases are really just new versions of the specification that outline a series of new features. They do consider these specs quote unquote live because much like the web, the spec, even though it comes out, they don't treat it like a waterfall process. Some of the things written in the spec are things browsers already have implemented or are working on because it's very much a dynamic process. But they still put out these releases so that there's actual versions of this, much like there was HTML4 or HTML5. This is WebAssembly, and this release that they announced this week is WebAssembly 3.0, so a major version of this. And a lot of the features are pretty low level, so I'm going to go over just a quick highlight of it. I think the reason to bring it up on this podcast is just to show that this is a paradigm that's really, really gaining popularity. There's apps like Figma, probably most popularly, Photoshop for the web, a bunch of other big tools that you know and use are written with WebAssembly. And there's investment now on the spec level to just improve this, to try to push more and more things to consider using this approach to building web apps. So as such, the biggest feature in WebAssembly 3.0 are related to memory. So apparently, because I don't live in the world of WebAssembly, I don't think you two do either, but apparently Wasm modules were previously limited to allocating 4 gigabytes of memory, but now they can declare up to a theoretical 16 exabytes, which
just a little bit more.
A lot of memory.
Yeah.
They do note that platforms will likely still limit memory usage. So browsers currently limit Wasm modules to 16 gigs of memory, which is still a lot of memory, but it's not in the exabytes. But even that memory increase, I mean, that's for a lot of apps, that's 4 times more memory that they can use. And for things like games, especially games are known to use an absolute crap ton of memory. Maybe some more games become viable on the web because of that. I guess we'll see how that plays out. There's things like making it easier to have a module work with multiple sets of memories. Again, I don't really totally understand what that is, but just if you want to segment how you're managing your memory, apparently that is now easier. And they also added some new lower level garbage collection APIs, with the idea that makes it easier to work with languages that have their own garbage collector. So Java, for example, has its own garbage collection process, and they wanted to make it easier for languages like that to target Wasm. So if you had a big Java code base, in theory now it's easier to maybe try to port some of that over so that you can use it on the web with the Wasm APIs. So again, new release, a bunch of stuff. Some of these features are already in browsers. Chrome, Firefox, Safari already have quite a few of these. If you click the blog post in the show notes, the one thing they do really well is they lay out. So each feature they go through, they have a link to the full spec on it. They have a list of browser support. So if you are in this world, in this WebAssembly world, or maybe you're considering using this for a new project, I think signs are looking good. This seems to be a very active working group. All of this is very well documented and laid out. And yeah, it looks pretty cool.
As absurd as this sounds, I think the segmented thing might have to do with, and crazy as this sounds, running an OS in Wasm. And the reason being that you want like different processes and all that sort of stuff, and you want to be able to segment memory that way. And if you're like, well, why would I want to do that? Well, actually, like we use it a lot. We do like Stack Blitz as an example. Whenever you run their like local thing, that actually fires up a web container that actually like runs a little Linux instance essentially like right in your browser, and then does all the npm stuff and all that like literally in that instance. So as insane as that sounds, it actually works and it's really cool.
Now that you mentioned that, that might be how CodePen does it also for their full project CodePens, where you can specify this is the library, like the JavaScript framework that I want to use, and then here's all the dependencies I want to install. So yeah, you probably have used it and didn't even know you were.
Yeah.
Well, and in more really complex apps that are written with sort of native text, C or whatever, it is common to have things split up into different modules that run in isolation, either in different threads or to take the OS example, different processes. It's quite common that you have something complex kind of that's designed to run on its own and has some sort of mechanism to share data between threads or processes or whatever. And this is, I think, what I read a lot of these features as is making it easier to integrate that sort of stuff that already exists. I'm not going to rewrite this in JavaScript to get it working on the web. It runs really, really fast as is, but I just need a way to port it and make it work. And they're trying to support those sort of workflows. And I think that's cool because, I've always thought Wasm is really cool for just bringing stuff to the web so you get to use browser features. Figma's the perfect example of this. A lot of their code is just C++ code that they use Wasm to run, but you still get to take advantage of the fact that the web has URLs and they can integrate. Some of their code base is written in JavaScript and TypeScript, and they try to make the best of both worlds. And so if we enable more of those sort of workflows and bring more stuff to the web, I consider that a very good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also like they're using Wasm outside of the web too. Like you can actually run Wasm containers on servers and things like that. So you can basically create like essentially portable code if the target is Wasm, which is like just crazy. Like so cool.
Yeah. They talked about that with some of the memory limits that browsers limit it. But if you're working outside of a browser with Wasm, maybe the sky's the limit.
Exabytes, baby. Let's go.
Whatever your machine can handle.
Let's allocate the size of all the stars in the universe. Yes. Okay. All right. So I was just over at CascadiaJS and giving a talk on TanStack, and it was pretty amazing because I was one of the only, I think 2 talks in the first day. It was me and Shruti that talked about things other than AI. So it was a full JS conference.
Oh man,
that was like, and it was funny too because like I put in my thing. It was for MCP, right? Event, my first talk, whatever, RF, whatever C or whatever that is, and then like a month later, I get back this thing like, hey, could you talk about TanStack? Because you seem to be into that. Could you talk about that instead? And I'm like, sure, yeah, sounds good. So I kind of switch gears, and there you go. But now I can understand why. Like it would have been like almost the entire first day, except for Shruti, would have been entirely AI, which is like, what?
Yeah.
Anywho, so I think first talk of the day was a guy from Google, Jason from Google, talking about the media pipe system that they have, and it kind of got me thinking, like, what is the state of AI in the browser? So let's just say that you don't want to have you want to put out a service, and that service is going to present do some sort of AI stuff, but you don't have a lot of money, so you're not going to give people inference. Like, you're not going to give them access to ChatGPT or whatever, because that costs you money. So what are your options when it comes to AI that you can run in the browser? And I figured I'd just do a synopsis for folks, kind of get you up to speed. So kind of starting from the back, you've got this new Chrome built-in AI API, and the good news is that it's built it right into the browser. You don't need to download anything other than the browser. But the bad news is that, one, it's only on Chrome. Two, you got to walk the user through initializing it, which requires them doing config : blah, 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 which I don't think Grandma Millie is going to want to know or do that.
No.
Yeah. And then
I don't want to do that.
I don't. Yeah, right, exactly. Another bad news on that one is that it's only good, and Paige, I think you covered this a while back, that it's only good for specific scenarios now, where it used to be very generalized, you could just have just do some inference. Now it's more here's a summarization thing, here's a writing thing, here's very specific scenarios, which I think is cool. From a standards standpoint, that's great, because other browsers might not want to use the same LLMs, and so they want kind of a higher level understanding of what are you trying to do here?
Yeah.
So that makes a certain amount of sense. So kind of a step up from that, let's say that you want to run an arbitrary model. So there's 3 different ways you can do this. One is you could use WebLLM by MLCAI, and good news, it runs really fast. I think it runs on Wasm, and it's designed to run big models in your browser. I guess still under the 4 gigabytes, but now probably with Wasm 3.0, probably up a little bit from that, 16 gigabytes. But still, that's not huge models.
Now, are we talking running totally locally?
Yeah, we're talking you could be on an airplane, Let's talk about airplane mode, right? So airplane mode, you could use the Chrome built-in AI, because that's going to be running locally.
Yep, it's built into the browser.
These 3 options are going to allow you to kind of run locally after you download the model. So that's another bad thing with all 3 of these approaches, is that you actually have to download the model to a local file system. And then when you want to start this thing up, you've got to go and basically download that into the browser, which just means popping a file dialog, and there you go.
Well, I do, we were talking about local stuff, and I think most of these options are probably not all that pragmatic for your company website or whatever, just because that download process is insane.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're downloading something if you're making something that's downloadable, that makes this way more viable, because sometimes you can set those flags in something like Electron so that those permissions are already there. And people might not gawk as much as downloading a couple gigabyte things, because, I just updated Xcode and it downloaded 17 gigabytes or something insane to my computer. Right. So you might have permission from a user to do this.
Yeah.
So
let's just say that, let's give it an example. You're a radiologist and you want to go and run an LLM that's that understands how to find cancer and screenings or whatever, that sort of stuff. You could have a dedicated app that you download the model and be on the plane and be going through, downloaded, images and that sort of stuff. That makes sense. It's a professional scenario, but no, you're not going to again, with the Grandma Millie thing, she's not going to download, 5 gigabytes of model in order to do a recipe AI to talk about how would I use chicken in this menu? Right? That's not going to happen, right? So. Okay. Anyway, moving on. So you got WebLLM. Good news, very fast, runs large. Bad news, it's a proprietary format. So it's not only just you have to download it, but it's got to be in this specific format for WebLLM. Media pipe. Very fast again, runs in Wasm. It runs some cool models like Gemma 2B, which is very competitive. But again, totally proprietary format, with basically limited to the Gemma stuff, and then some stuff on Hugging Face, where they've got some very specific models for motion and that sort of stuff, and again requires a download.
Did you say this was Microsoft's?
No, MediaPipe is from Google.
Okay.
And then Onyx is the one from Microsoft, and that would be a third. Onyx is interesting because it actually has like multiple fallback levels. You can run it in Wasm. Microsoft's really heavy on Wasm, but you can also run it in JavaScript, but it gets like super slow because you're running an LLM in a JavaScript VM. Not great. But I guess it's nice that there is that fallback, so it's very compatible. But again, like all of these for proprietary format. And if you're like, well, what would it take to go and take an LLM from, say, Onyx and like recompile it to go into the format for like, say, MediaPipe? Takes a day. Takes a day to do that, maybe. And maybe that'll work. So it's not like, just like flip some bits. Like it's like they're fully reassembling the model kind of thing from scratch kind of thing. So not great. And then if we sort of switch out of offline mode, but we still don't need you to give us a key or at least store a key for you. I didn't know you could do this, but apparently you can and have been able to for a while. Is that OpenAI, Anthropic, all of these companies have had core support for a while. So you could ask the user for a key, like right in the browser, keep it just in memory in the browser, and then fire off your request right to OpenAI or right to, Anthropic. And you never have to store the key. So from a customer perspective, it's really nice that they get the feeling, oh, you're not going to like store my key and abuse it or whatever, like that sort of thing. So, there is that option if you want to go that way. So those are the kind of three basic models that you can use to kind of get an mostly offline, but then offline online mode there.
Well, and one big hit you're taking right away with any of these sort of airplane mode scenarios is that you are using a model that is in some ways more limited because versus just totally sending it off to the cloud. Now, depending on what you're doing, that might be appropriate. So let's take your radiologist example. You might have an LLM that's specifically trained. It's scanned 10 million x-rays or whatever radiologists used. And so you need that specialized LLM. You're not calling off to OpenAI or Anthropic or anything like that.
Right.
But if you're doing a more general use case, there might be a more powerful cloud model that in no way, shape, or form could ever run in a browser. So it kind of is very situational dependent.
And to be honest, in no way, shape, or form could actually run in your machine, period, story. End of story. Like, you're not going to run GPT-5 in your machine. Not unless you've got a machine that I can't even imagine.
Yeah, unless you've got a data center handy.
But that is interesting. That's something that we haven't talked about for a while is what can you do if you don't want to just sign up for OpenAI or Anthropic or Perplexity or one of those. So yeah, that's good updates on what else is going on out there for people who want to run offline or want to run their own models for whatever reason. So yeah.
And
the cost.
Potentially like pay those bills, right? Because you're going to have to manage like, and maybe I don't know, maybe there's a service for this, but like a lot of systems, like you'll buy tokens or whatever, and then the tokens will get you a certain amount of inference, right? And then, but as a third-party vendor, now I've got to deal with this whole like token banking system, blah 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 / token tracking, yada yada. It's just a lot, man. When I just want to give you some AI features, man.
Yeah, it's a hard because we talked about some of the benefits of having all this just on the cloud and using one of the big models, but then there's the cost of doing that. And there's the dependency of doing that because you're kind of at the mercy of OpenAI and their future pricing decisions. And if you get too coupled to that, your users get too used to that, you could potentially be in for a world of hurt or a bill of hurt, I guess, in the future.
Yeah. And some users are really scared of the large AI companies reading their data. So they want you to run it locally, or they want some way to run it off of the internet. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
The radiologist has to be concerned about HIPAA. So yeah.
And if you're a company that's just wanting to do like some, algorithmic stuff, and then OpenAI changes its pricing, but you didn't change your pricing on your, like your little credits or whatever that you did and the conversion, then now you got people on Twitter saying that, oh, I'm paying X amount for credits and getting this amount for inference, and I can tell that they're making like $1,000, blah, 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 blah. It's like, what? I just wanted to give you freaking recipe AI. What the heck? Grr.
Yeah, Grandma Millie just needs her recipes, man.
Exactly. Grandma Millie just wants to know what to do with her butterfly chicken. Jesus. What the heck?
Jack, though, so it sounds like you saw one interesting talk. I mean, we want to get your reaction to CascadiaJS in general. How was it? Fun, worthwhile?
Yeah, that's the tough part. Is it worthwhile nowadays? And I know that's going to sound kind of controversial, but like I talk with a lot of the other presenters there, and there is this kind of sense of like, are we getting, what are we getting here? Like, it's great that we can go and talk and talk to these folks, and that's wonderful. But like the crowd sizes aren't huge. Like if you think about it, you're talking at a good conference, maybe 2,000 people. Smaller conferences probably in the 500 range. And then later on, they may go and take that video and post it, but they'll probably get maybe 1,000 views, couple thousand views. Where if you are working off of YouTube or TikTok or Insta, you give the same kind of information in a much more consolidated form, and you get, tens of thousands of views on this, really quickly. You're much more up to date, kind of in people's faces. You get the ability to edit stuff, which, I was talking to a few folks there, and they're like, oh man, and me too. Like you have the stage fright and jitters and stuff, and it's like, I could just go and do this in front of a green screen. And I don't have any jitters in front of a green screen. I mean, I know that I can just cut, paste, whatever, yada, yada, and find the right take. And there you go. And blah, 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 right? After a while, you get used to it and you're just done. But no, I don't think anybody, I talked to a bunch of the presenters there. Nobody really felt comfortable except for Jason Langsdorf, who's always just inherently comfortable in everything he does. But I gave my presentation and then literally just kind of walked back to the shook a few hands, walked back to the hotel, and just crashed because I was like that adrenaline rush and all that. And yeah, I mean, I did see some really good presentations. Adam Argyle just blew me away with his, a couple of Shruti was great. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they're worth it anymore.
So from an attendee's perspective, I could say from a presenter's perspective, I am 100% with you. I used to do 5 to 7 events per year, and some of that is just, there's my job as developer relations. But now I'm down to doing like 1, maybe 2 per year. And that was somewhat a conscious decision because we, just from a company perspective, we're getting less value out of doing them for a lot of the same reasons you covered. It's the same thing from a company perspective. We could get our company's message a lot easier through YouTube and TikTok and whatever than we can by physically traveling to these events. And from an attendee's perspective, though, I think to me the value that still remains in doing these events is the networking. Because even hearing you talk about it, your highlights are when I got to see this person and I got to talk to them.
Yeah.
That's the real value of doing these. So when picking an event or when deciding, I would very much take that into account because there hasn't been a conference I've went to in a very long time where I was like, oh, I got a lot out of hearing the content presented at this. Because honestly, if I needed to learn something, I could look up a course or honestly, maybe even YouTube videos that are going to teach me the topic probably better than I'll get in person. Mm-hmm. So, but I won't get the interaction that I get at the events. So I don't know. That's what goes through my head when I'm deciding whether to do one of these things or not.
I mean, I have not spoken nearly as much as either one of you, especially at in-person events, but I always remember, or I guess I always forget, honestly, how much work it is for a speaker ahead of time to do it, because you commit and then suddenly you have slide decks to build and you have demos to do and you have just time spent going over your presentation and making sure that you hit all the points that you want to
in a certain amount of time.
Right. Am I going too long? Did
exactly.
I go? Yeah. Is it 20 minutes, but I have 45 minutes to fill? Will anybody show up? That's the other thing is like, can I write a really good one paragraph hook that gets everybody to come in the first place and see it? So yeah, there is a lot of work that goes into it even before you pack your bag and head for whatever city it's in.
I do know that,
Yeah.
like, when I was over at the Get Nation stuff, there were folks who, I was in the green room talking with them, and this is what they do. Like, literally, they are digital nomads.
Mhm.
They write their presentation, like, the beginning of the year, and they just kind of, like, hone and refine it, and they just go from conference to conference to conference. One dude actually had a tour shirt, a straight-up tour shirt of his, like, year laid out. And it was, like, it was not a small shirt. I mean, it was like 25 conferences on there. And it's like, whoa, okay. I guess you really nailed it with the RFC this time. But like, yeah.
Then how do you make money if that is your sole thing and you're just, because I mean, the vast majority of developer conferences do not pay their speakers, except maybe the keynote speakers who are really, really big deals. Like everybody else is just doing it for the exposure and the going to the conference for free and getting to go to a new city that they haven't been to or visited. Like there's not a lot of actual money involved to pay your bills at the end of the month.
No.
Depends on what you're doing. Like sometimes your company's sponsored to do that and you're just getting your message out.
Yeah.
That's one big reason that people do it. And the other one is sometimes they're just promoting, they're doing it on behalf of some consulting company and they're just using it as a way to bring in business, similar to how salespeople might travel a lot and go to conventions in those worlds. That's kind of similar. That there's kind of a whole ecosystem there in and of itself
and that totally
exists.
makes sense. Yeah.
So,
but you don't want, but the viewers don't want to see that. Like they want to see, the Adam Argyles who are just like super pumped and
excited
jumping all over the
everything.
stage just because he loves CSS and he just like freaking loves everything about it. And he's like, yeah. And it's like, whoa, wow, okay. I didn't need caffeine today. I saw Adam Argyle.
Yeah, and the people, the people in the DevRel world that are the best are well aware of that and try to not come off corporate-y at all and give something that's genuinely valuable. But it's very hard to shake that because people, as soon as you introduce yourself as that, that's what people are thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
What services are you selling me now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like MediaPipe. Okay. Well, shall we get into lightning news? Do we have any?
We have a couple of fest things.
Okay, let's go for it.
So I got two quick things. The first is GitHub announced an MCP registry. So you can go to github.com/MCP. There's 39 servers there. There's buttons to install in VS Code because clearly they see this as a way of promoting GitHub Copilot and whatnot as well. But what I thought was interesting about this is in their announcement, they said that, so they're launching this initial directory with curated partners and whatnot. But they're saying they're working closely with Anthropic and the MCP steering committee, which apparently MCP has a steering committee now. Who knew?
Definitely. Yes.
To build an open source MCP registry that integrates seamlessly with GitHub's. So the GitHub one is nice. There's some, you can probably trust the ones that are there, which is kind of nice. But I think it's more interesting that because that's such a small list that's there today, that they're working on making this more of an established thing, because that to me is still one of the hardest parts when dealing with MCP is the ridiculously fragmented ecosystem that exists out there. And I think this is one step that might help stabilize all that.
Yeah. And then it creates another registry, and we know how good those are for security. So yes, let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
No problems here.
Yeah.
Fast forward to a year from now, and we'll be covering the MCP registry heist.
Oh my God, we're all
the worm is in there, and
MCP is like so bad for security. It is ridiculous. Really ridiculous.
Yeah.
But we've already went down the security hole. I don't want to get. I have a fun thing. There's no security implications whatsoever, because apparently Microsoft Paint is getting project files similar to how Photoshop has PSD files. And what's exciting about this to me is that apparently Microsoft has been investing in Paint pretty heavily, which kind of blows my mind because I used to be a Windows user. I used to like Paint for very simple things.
Simple things.
Yeah, the simplest.
They were simple, but Microsoft has added the ability to work with transparency. They're adding in AI features into Paint. And so because there's layers in Paint now as well. And so because they have all this stuff, they need a richer file format because, you're going in depth with Paint.
Because they're basically going against Photoshop, essentially.
Yeah. You got to save those off. And so soon you'll be able to save off your Paint creations as a .paint file.
Ooh. Wow, we're doing
Interesting.
5 letters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For our
5-level
extensions.
extension
Which we always
pretty
good.
long.
Well, not always, but not yet.
Man.
Three character thing.
I so hope that Microsoft's addition of AI to Paint is Clippy. Let it be AI Clippy. Please.
Yes. That would be awesome.
What I
Is
hope,
it going to be cross-platform? I want to see this.
no, of course it won't be cross-platform. But what I hope is that it encourages the Mac team to actually invest in their preview image editor, because I do use that stupid thing because I'm still overwhelmed by Adobe's image editing tools. And so I use the Mac ones to do image resizing or just extremely simple image manipulation. And preview is like 85% of what I need. And if they just would add some really basic things like the paint bucket from Paint, just like, which I consider kind of image editing 102 probably. The Mac Preview app doesn't have that. There's some other just low-hanging fruit that if Mac team, if you do that, you can keep me from buying an Adobe license for doing just dead simple image manipulation.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and God, I so want to use GIMP. And yet every time I download GIMP, I absolutely regret it. It is like the world's worst UI. It's like Adobe pays GIMP to just have all the features, but with a really terrible UI. It's just so bad. I don't understand it. And it never gets any better. How do you do that?
Nope. I know exactly what you mean. Like every once in a while, I'm like, well, okay, let me just download it. Let's just download and use it. And then 2 hours later, it's like that was not a good idea.
Away.
Sorry. Like I appreciate it because I think that's the whole
wasted time.
Open, really nice, feel good story. It should be everything that I like in the software world, but yet just I can never figure out how to use it. So I'm with you.
Yeah, I just don't. I can't even. All right, do we have any more?
I think that's it.
All right, cool. Well, let's talk about what's making us happy this week.
Yeah.
TJ, what's making you happy?
I just saw this little service that I love little one-off websites that people build just for fun. And I discovered one thanks to the Bytes newsletter. So shout out to the Bytes newsletter. It's always a great read every week. And they turned me on to fishyurl.com. Now that is fishy with a PH because we're talking about fishy as in phishing type attacks. And so what this service does is that it lets you generate a bit.ly style link, but in a way that looks very fishy. So for example, it'll throw things in there like, here, I'll just generate one real quick. So if I wanted to make a link to, let's put one into front-n-fire.com, and I said just generate fishy URL, it gives me cheap-bitcoin.online
Nice.
slash firewall-bypass / remote extractor tool.exe.
Yes.
And then it's got a query string on there that includes request equals forge, return plus undefined.
Great.
Amazing.
IP equals flood. Oh man.
That's awesome.
It's so good. But then it's an actual legit, just like Bitly
It's
service.
an actual
It does actually give you a link. So I don't know. It's such a stupid thing, but I just love it.
Should we love
just
that?
so great.
Are we teaching people?
That's pretty funny.
I just love the little things they put in there. Like there's inside jokes in the whole URL. I think that's what makes me appreciate it. Just putting like an exe tool in the query string, and I don't know. It's good stuff.
That reminds me, several years ago, there were websites that were popping up that were like hipster name generators for businesses. And you would just hit a button and it would
I so want to see this.
Yeah, and they were just a bunch of like random hipster words and little images, and it would make you like a little logo and a brand new name, and it would be something just super out there, but would totally fit in like New York City or San Francisco where these things pop up. Yeah, that was great too. Same kind of idea. It's just garbage, but it was so fun to do and just like refresh and see what would come up next.
Yep.
All right, Paige, what's making you happy?
The Great British Bake Off is back for a new season. And this is the one reality-ish TV show that I watch and really enjoy. And it's on Netflix for US users. It's on, I don't know, Channel 4 or something in the UK if you're over there. But I just love how into it the bakers are, how earnest they all are, how nice they all are compared to like American TV show contestants who are just the worst to each other, especially when they're competing.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Yeah. Totally cutthroat.
And yeah, they're super cutthroat. And these people like, oh, I see that I've finished my thing and you're having trouble over here getting your decorations done. Can I come over and help? And they do. And they don't like try and mess up the other person's things. They're actually helping them get done in time. And yeah, it's just great how it's exciting because is your cake going to be done all the way through or is it going to be underbaked or did you overbake it? Like there's a little bit of drama, but it's also just cakes and cupcakes and
they
cookies
roll their
and bread.
Cakes a lot.
They
do.
Put
like, they make the sheet cake that's kind of thinnish and then they put stuff up on it and then they roll it. And it's like, whoa. And there's a lot of drama in that roll because, man.
There is.
Like,
there is so much drama.
Mess that up
will it
bad.
set in time? Will it cool in time? Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, these are all...
It's a show that has no business being that entertaining because I didn't get it until I watched it either. Because
yes.
If you've never seen it before, you probably like me where you go, why would I watch people compete at baking? That does not sound interesting at all. But then you get 2 or 3 episodes in and you've picked a favorite and there's somebody you don't want to win and you're totally sucked in. So I will almost certainly end up watching this at some point.
Yeah. So the new season is out. I think we're up to episode 3 at this point. Some of my friends and I are doing a fantasy food ball team where we pick everybody gets to pick 2 bakers, and then if you get things like if you win the technical you get so many points, if you get a handshake from one of the judges you get a few points. Like there's different things that equal different amounts of points. So yeah, it's
Does the judges cry at all? Because it's the whole like thing in the clay area is like the guy cries when he sees something that's really good. It's like,
no, there's no judges that cry particularly, but if you get a Hollywood handshake from one of the judges, that's a big deal. Everybody all the bakers just kind of like crumble if Paul holds out his hand and like wants to give you a handshake because that was like you did a really, really good job. So
Okay.
Yeah, it's super enjoyable to watch. I'm
hilarious.
Really liking it.
Yeah. All right. Well, what's making me happy this week is yo-yos. Who knew?
The kid's
right?
toy.
Yeah. So I was walking around the conference, just minding my own business, saying hi to people as I would go along. And the elastic table, they had yo-yos. And I really didn't want to listen to the elastic spiel. Like, I know whatever. Anyway, but I was kind of like, hey, can I grab a yo-yo? And the guy's like, sure, whatever. Yeah, fine. And it was like one of those like light up yo-yos and the whole thing. And I was like, man, because I used to yo-yo when I was in my 20s. It was like Rubik's Cube for me now. Like just one of those things that you just kind of do as like a fidget thing. And I don't know why I stopped, but I just stopped. And then, so I'm up in the green room just chatting with the other folks. And I'm like doing this yo-yo. And like it just immediately came back. Except that like I couldn't really... I remember there was a thing like for the butterflies, they could really do walk the dog really well. So that's when the yo-yo goes to the bottom and then sticks there. And then you can kind of do stuff like, make it, like cradling
and you can
and all
like
that
flip
sort
it
of
over your finger.
Yeah.
Balance it. Yeah.
Right.
Those were cool.
That was super cool. But like, I really couldn't get this one to do that. It would like snap right back immediately. And so Adam comes in, Adam Argyle, and he's like, oh wow, cool, yo-yo. Can I try it out? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, but I'm like, I can't get it to walk the dog. I don't think it does that. And so he puts it on his finger, and immediately, swack, and it just goes straight down and stops. And he's like, yeah, it doesn't do that. And like, whang, right back up. And I'm like, oh, what? And of course, so then I put it back on my finger, and I actually, just having seen him do it allowed me to then do it, but not reliably, not as well as he did. And of course, he's like fantastic at it. And you're like, oh, jeez, man. Is there anything this guy like? What?
Cannot do.
There's definitely something, because I used to yo-yo in high school, probably around the same time, because they had a fad at some point where they were really, really popular.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I think there's something to do with the quality of the yo-yo, because I remember I ended up buying something stupid like a $30, $40 yo-yo, and you genuinely could tell the difference because it made it easier to do certain tricks and whatnot. And I'm guessing Elastic did not invest in super high quality.
And it's funny you mentioned that
events.
because a lady was there. She was doing AI stuff, of course. And she was like, okay, can I try? And I'm like, sure, yeah, go for it. And then she does 2 or 3 things, and it literally just blows apart.
Yeah.
It blew apart. And I'm like, what?
Not a quality yo-yo.
I've never seen a yo-yo do this. And, she's like, I'm sorry. We tried putting the thing back together. It doesn't really work all that well. I end up the next day literally going back to the Elastic guys and just stealing a yo-yo off the table. I got to have my yo-yo fix. But yeah, no, it was really funny. And then, of course, because it blew up, I went online to Duncan and actually bought, decent yo-yos. Yeah.
Nice.
Nowadays, there's yo-yos where it's not even attached. They're trick yo-yos, so you can actually take it. You can take the line and kind of flick it up and have the actual yo-yo head kind of go up in the air, and then drop back onto it and do all kinds of stuff. It's very elaborate. Yeah, they really get into it. So I kind of got one of those too, because I'm me.
Why
so we'll
not?
see. Yeah, why exactly? If I'm going to learn guitar 57, I might as well learn some crazy ass yo-yo stuff while I'm here.
Yeah,
exactly.
Awesome.
All right. Hey, this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this one. And I hope you guys have too. Listen on the other end. We will see you next week on Front End Fire. And of course, in the meantime, jump on Discord and leave us a review. We've started thinking about the idea of reading some of your reviews on this podcast. So leave a good one and we'll read it. All right. See you next week.
Absolutely. See you, everybody.
See you then.